Hello, everyone. This is Dan Wheeler with InterSources Inc. and InfoSecurity Compliance.com for what I believe is the third installment of our podcast. And we are tackling a very important topic today: diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are joined today by the head of HR, Vicky Shah, and our regulars, Jigar and Vishwa, who will give their important perspectives from the customer success and the technical background. So, okay, let's dive right into it. Vicky, diversity, equity, and inclusion. What do these terms mean?
Oh, good question, Brad. Always, difficult to put it in short. But yeah, so, just as you see the tree in my background, I would just say diversity is for me, all hands. It's been accommodating anyone from, any culture, any background, any ethnicity. Okay, so diversity is just not about, recruiting. It's going beyond that, removing the filters, being extremely transparent to each and everyone on the system. So that's why it's because it's very clearly shown that with with all hands put together, any an organization or anything else, where the diversity applies can clearly blossom. Okay, so that's diversity for me. Inclusion is, as I said, we don't have to stop at diversity. What next? Okay, we did the right thing in hiring. We had a diverse approach. Inclusion is being fair. Okay, is being fair on our systems, being fair on our processes, procedures. Okay, and while I said the inclusion before equity, it's because it's a continuous approach. Okay, so I purposely put equity towards the end. Okay, so I put equity now. So it's basically diversity, equity, inclusion. Okay, so inclusion is, as I said that earlier, that it's putting everyone together, giving them and a platform where everyone comes together, and they feel inclusive. Equity is something where where we say that okay, it's fair, but what are the measures we are taking as a processes. Okay, in processes and procedures, semantic matters, what kind of verbiage we are using, what kind of communication goes out. Okay, so all that is a part of equity pillar. And as I always say that diversity is inviting someone into a party, and equity and inclusion is dancing, dancing all through across.
Right.
So it's like to ensure, if once the diversity is laid down, the diversity culture is laid down, to ensure that it's continuous, and there is no stop, and it's imbibed in the culture. That's where equity and inclusion comes in place.
Right. Right.
I
And
hope I answered your question. Yeah.
yes, I think you did. And I've heard it described too in other places that equity is a seat at the table. Inclusion is a chance to speak and be heard. So good.
Yes.
And so and there's a number of reasons why we are implementing these things, is why these things are coming to law. So would you want to talk about some of the benefits that companies reap from including DE&I in their policies?
Yeah. See, as an HR with this, I always say that, with driving and DE&I, it doesn't make an HR manager or an HR head. It is a crisis head and a crisis manager, because we are dealing with two parts of, with mindsets where we want to accommodate a particular section of, a particular section of society, which feel that they are not having included, and we need to accommodate such people. And there is a set of people who don't want to accommodate, who don't want to get along. They have their own boundaries, but we don't want to lose them either. So it's striking a perfect balance. So, the benefit is one thing which, before I talk about the benefit, one thing is that organization generally say this, that, I want someone, I want a person, or I want an internal person who is taking a mobility, or I want to hire as a culture fit, you know. So culture fit is now with DE&I is a very wrong word according to me, is a very wrong jargon according to me. It has to be culture add. Okay, let everyone come, whoever is deserving. Okay, let the ethnicity, culture, caste, creed, color, everything be left behind or just be washed out of people's mind, and let them enhance our culture. Let's not stuck to the culture. Okay, change is the only thing which is constant. So let all minds come. It's about having minds, good minds in the organization, rather than or what is the background they belong to. Okay, and let them add to the culture rather than just saying, okay, we want a culture fit. So if this changes, so I went a little backward. If this changes, Dan, then you know the way the organization progresses is that we have a transparency, we have the best people, because we've not filtered them out. Okay, so we have people who give solutions and don't create problems. Who are people who always thrive to solutions, and just don't come up with the problems. Okay, so that is the benefit of it. Secondly, having a DE&I culture, you know one is it has a direct impact and a positive impact to the image of the company. That's the first thing. Second is image in terms of with the trust that we build. Okay, with having a strong DNI culture in the organization. Okay, it increases the reach. It increases the reach. We because we know. So at times when we have problems, we get the answers on its own by having a DNI culture, because we've increased the reach, we've increased our boundaries. So when we have more and more people coming in, we our long lasting problems which we are stuck on because of filtering, it gets resolved and it gets started resolving on its own. I've seen it all by myself. That's the biggest benefit of opening it to diverse culture, and having an open mindset across the globe, across the organization.
The bottom line being, I guess, that that there are minds, great minds, and that with that we might hire with a DE&I policy that otherwise we wouldn't know about, which otherwise wouldn't have a chance to get a seat at the table. Right. So it's basically opening the door to some skills and talents that otherwise wouldn't be available to us, right? Or that we wouldn't be encouraged to hire. So a little bit of change of pace, Jigar, for you who work in the trenches, who manage people, who deal with clients on a regular basis, what's been your personal experience with DE&I policies and their benefits?
It's been pretty much a learning curve for most of the people in any organization over the past year and a half, given the current situation and current scenarios. Some of the data show that more than 50% of the people that are currently in the United States workforce has at one point or some point had thought about resigning. So they actually even termed this past year and a half as a great resignation. But we are in a phase of moving away from the great resignation, and we're moving towards the great hire. So everybody who are in human resources, like my good friend Vicky here, they are the unsung heroes. They are the unsung heroes. They go through a lot of things, a lot of changes, because nobody has anticipated any of this. And now most of the, due to current events, most of the corporations are required to have the DE&I strategy in place. So there is no resources given, no new resources or no new strategies given to the HR to deal with this. Most of the corporations, they don't even have the most important strategy that will help them acquire a diverse employees is the location strategy. because the diversity does not come from only one source. You have to have different location strategies in place so you can go through that the pool of employees and choose your diverse employees that you need or that's going to add value to your corporate culture. Like Vicky mentioned again, the corporate all the corporations main focus was the culture fit, and that's where the bias was occurring. Like, you do not want culture fit, as we can say, culture add or a future fit. Who's going to benefit you in future? So those were some of the hurdles that managers and the human resource managers and the directors were facing. But along with that, there has been a few changes in the hiring process that I have noticed, because everybody have to change the ways. The interviews are on the computer anymore. It's not in person, so you cannot read the body language. And what we look for currently, the focus has shifted a little bit. It's not all about their talent or skills alone. It's about their experience and their flexibility, because they will be juggling a lot of things together, like kids, school, spouses, house, and they got to find a balance somewhere. So we look for a person's ability to follow ambiguous directions, because right now nobody has a clear idea of where it's going to go, where it's going to lead. So in this process of hiring right now, we are focusing more onto the flexibility and their responses, like because right now, like one of the meetings, we were having a Zoom meeting, and we were taking a live interview, and a person's lap dog just jumps on the lap. So people are being people. I mean, that's a good thing to see. Like, they're not trying to pretend to be somebody they're not, because right now, everything shows that. I mean, we are using the virtual backgrounds, but if it was your back of your house, I mean, it could be you see the spouse working in the kitchen. So it's just people being people. It's more human now. So I like that aspect of it, but other challenges, of course, still remain in place.
I guess people allow their diversity, allow their diverse experiences to show through more in environments, in an environment that's welcoming to diverse experiences, right?
I actually had one question for Jigar and Vicky. So we've been listening to quite a lot of things related to DE&I. Don't you think that this is becoming more like an obligatory thing for companies to do, and not something that happens intrinsically from the company? Like, just because the focus is on DE&I right now, people are kind of hiring in that way. Don't you think it should have been from the start, and there need not be any obligation of a kind?
Yeah, you're correct. This strategy should have been in place a long time ago. And that's why the differences were created to begin with, because people started seeing the differences. Like they were, like the bias, like I said, bias occurs on the early stages when people see the resume and they see the familiar school or the school they went to. Yeah. Right there, there's gonna be bias. They're gonna be, a little bit tending towards hiring that person, or they will have a little soft corner for them, or a sports team, common sports team that they like. But like I said, they are kind of being forced to have DE&I strategies. I mean, there is no written regulation of corporations mandating them to have the DE&I strategy. But there are some data that also even show that the corporations do benefit from having this strategy, almost up to 38% more in productivity and almost 20% more in the bottom line of the corporation.
In my experience as well, in my observations, is that organizational change is difficult to implement as a general rule, and there's usually resistance to sweeping organizational changes, and so basically DE&I policies amount to incentives to implement these kinds of organizational changes, for the better.
Right. And anything that, sorry, Dan, go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And Vishwa, as you rightly said, and Jiga rightly said, so anything that comes with the understanding and I would just rather use the word compassion, or for having diverse cultures, or with also the benefit, where if with an understanding also of from just not for the people but also for their own business, the benefit of their own business, that is way more easy than in imposing. Okay, an imposed thing definitely has repercussions, has pushbacks, and it's more it definitely it with the drive it has, as Jigar said, there is definitely benefits, but if it's imposed, then having the space of cons, just not pros, or also having the space of cons also increases, because it's imposed and it's not come by a total vote, a total understanding of everyone. So as Jigar rightly said and rightly asked, it has to, it should have been accepted, and it should have been should have been done, or it should, I think it should not be a moment in first place.
Yeah.
It should be a natural way of doing it.
Mhm.
I mean, why the differences? It should not be a moment in first place, and now it's in the moment. Every moment comes is attached. Emotions are attached to every moment. But this time with 2020, 2021, this has come as a very strong movement, and yeah, in some parts it's definitely been imposed, and we do have case studies where things of imposing it how it's been taken. So well, but that's the reality.
All right. So,
Yeah.
Vicky, what are some of the experiences that you've had with DE&I? What are some of the observations that you've made about how it works in practice?
See, one is, I'll just talk at the organization level, and one is we stuck to hiring, like Jigar mentioned on resume. If you see a specific school, or you need someone who can drive different agendas of the company if he has some extracurricular activities on the resume. So those are the thoughts which come across where when you see your resume. But filtering the profiles in the right manner. Okay, one is, before even profiles, semantic matters, as I always say. The way you are presenting the company, every word in your introduction of the company matters. That's the first thing. In my experience, if I were to share, like say an example of a campus hiring. Okay, every region, or every part of the world has this thing of good ranking college and low or in the low ranking college. Okay, so so the companies visit some specific colleges, they filter out some colleges. I mean, we need to understand that people who are getting are acquiring graduations, or are undergoing or studies or anything in the low ranking college, are basically not there. It's by their choice. They didn't have the resources to go, or maybe didn't have the resources, the right kind of direction to go to the right colleges. Okay, so that so at times we have to also see that only the percentage or only the college doesn't matter, because at times the experience and the practicality and the way they perform is very different from what we have in books. Okay, even an average student can go way ahead of a person who is a topper. Okay, so that if you understand that practicality, and if you develop and design your entire recruitment and onboarding agenda with that thing in mind. Okay, so that will really open doors. In my experience, I've seen that we have hired a person of an average rank college vis-a-vis the top rank college, and we had, in the orientation, we had a full house with people from average colleges as well as from the top rank colleges, because they are of the same age group. I've seen in a span of 3 years, the employee of the candidate of the top rank college is reporting into the average rank college person. So that is a reality. I've seen that. Okay, so that is one example, and this occurs everywhere, where this thing is, where where the doors of diversities are open. Okay, you can see, you see magic happening, because I see it magic, because when anything which is an illusion which goes away out of your eyes, it is definitely going to because your problems, you see solutions to your problems coming very quickly. So you will feel that okay, things are changing and it's really being magical. Okay, and why didn't we think something this like this way before a decade? So that's one thing which I would really say, that hiring, onboarding patterns, and semantic, and the way you represent your company really matters.
Getting, because there's a lot of talent, right, hidden away,
Yeah.
and that aren't in top colleges because they didn't have an equitable opportunity to study at those colleges. Okay, so I think that could be wrapping it up. Are there any last thoughts on this, on perhaps where this is going, or how you see this developing, or going in the future?
I just see that, feel that, like I said, that, they didn't have like people of average college is just an example, who didn't have those resources, or they did the right direction. It's just not about driving DE&I agenda. It's about, every person involved in this considers himself not as a leader, but as a coach or a mentor. Okay, fine. If for 20 years someone has not got the right direction, let me get him and let me direct that person, because he has talent. Okay, and I've seen that in the interview process. So we should not keep our hiring process very very related to the mark sheets or percentages. Our hiring process should be more like really bringing the best talent in, become way more from whatever culture they are coming from. So I think everyone involved in this, junior, senior, in the DE&I agenda, should be a coach and a mentor, to drive this agenda with a lot of open mind and complete transparency.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Vicky, Jigar, Vishwa.
Thank you.
Sure.
It
Thanks,
has
Jan.
been a pleasure sharing this meeting with you, and we'll sign off. Cheers, and
Have a nice
till
day,
next
guys.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.